We're also streaming this to the West Hill Community Association's Facebook page.
Nice.
So that's what's also happening. So I just wanted to welcome you all. I'm Finn Hardy. I'm a member of Lake Ridge Lutheran Church. I'm a resident here in this neighborhood as well. And I've been part of the steering committee about this partnership between Reach and Lake Ridge Lutheran, with Maggie here as the steering co-chair. And there's other steering committee members also on the call. We'll all go ahead and introduce ourselves in a bit. But just like I mentioned before, this meeting is recorded and streaming on the West Hill Community Association's Facebook page. You can always turn your video off if you would like to do that. And we'll keep folks on mute until we're at the question time for you all to share things that you'd like to get some more information on. And just so you're aware, so we have some pre-planned things that we'd like to share with you, but if there's something that you would like to ask about, you can type it into the chat box, or at the bottom of your screen, the button that says reactions, there's a button to raise your hand. And so you can use that if there's something that comes up when we're in kind of the conversation piece. You can see that tech support is modeling how to use that. And then we'll know that you've got something that you'd like to share. And so just for our agenda, we're gonna share just some background about Lake Ridge Lutheran Church and Reach and their Center of Hope Family Shelter. And then kind of why there's this need for new space. We'll respond to some of the questions that folks submitted when they registered, because there was an option to ask questions ahead of time. And then we'll open it up for questions you may all have in the moment. And we'll also save some time at the end to offer some information about neighborhood engagement and how we can be in partnership with you all. So with that, I will turn it over to Pastor Scott to just open us with a prayer. And I see a few folks have just logged in right now. Thank you for joining us, and we will get started. Go ahead, Pastor Scott.
Thank you, Finn. Let us pray. Holy One, we give thanks for this day of life, this beautiful weather, and for the presence of all who are part of this conversation. For neighbors, for congregation members, for public safety, for government, we give you thanks that we have everything we need to be in conversation with one another, including this particular conversation today. And so may your spirit be with us as we continue to learn more about one another and to be grateful. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So we are meeting by Zoom, and we would much rather, Reach is a relational organization. We value relationship. It's one of our grounding kind of principles and norms, is to build relationship. So if it weren't during COVID, we would be meeting face-to-face, and we'd be meeting face-to-face repeatedly. But this is what we have right now. One of the things approaches we take, because we're so relational, is that we stay away from webinars because it doesn't allow us to really interact. I've been on webinars and it's just really frustrating because I can't have a conversation with people. I feel like I'm being talked to. So we're intentionally setting it up as a Zoom meeting so that we can see each other and talk to each other as that format allows. That means, however, that we're trusting everybody to abide by a code of conduct that we put out as part of this setting this up. So I just want to remind folks what that is, and let you know kind of how we're going to manage things. So we are asking that we avoid from any behavior or actions that's discriminatory or harassing or threatening, including the sharing of messages or images, that we refrain from anything that posting or messaging anything that's defamatory or slandering, that we don't engage in harassment around anybody, but especially around protected classes, so race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender, sexual orientation, age, disability, and and lots of others, of protected classes. If we do have anyone who's engaging in behavior that is disruptive or disrespectful or not productive from our perspective, then we'll put a warning into the chat to you privately that says, you're infringing upon our norms, please stop. And if the behavior doesn't stop, then that person will be removed. And we're going to judge when that needs to happen. I'm sure it won't happen, but it's just really healthy to set these things out. We're going to mute everyone now so that we can share information well, but we will have opportunity to talk. So thanks so much, all of you, for agreeing to abide by those when you registered. And we're really grateful for the opportunity to be in this virtual room with you all. So Carla, would you please take us through some introduction to the steering group so that people know who's here?
Absolutely. I'll start with myself. My name is Carla Kepker. I'm a 20-year resident of the Lake Ridge neighborhood. I'm also a mom of 2 elementary school kids that go to Lake Ridge Elementary. I have been a member of Lake Ridge Lutheran Church for about 2 years, I think. I'm on church council, and I'm also on the steering committee. And I am a former employee of Downtown Emergency Service Center. So I have a professional history of working with homeless adults, although my history is with a much different category of homeless adults. And I think, Finn, do you want to do any more introductions, or did you think your introduction was plenty?
I can just share, I'm also an elementary second grade teacher at Lake Ridge Elementary School, where Carla's kids go. And I'm also on the board of the West Hills Community Association. I see Joey, our president of the board, is also here, so thank you. Yeah, I think that's sufficient.
Excellent. And then I'd also like to invite Pastor Scott to introduce himself.
Carla, I think I'll wait, and I have the next piece there. I'll just say
okay.
a few words then. Thanks.
Okay, I can do that. And so I'd like to invite Maggie to introduce herself.
Hey everyone, I'm the development director and a community-based researcher with REACH. I am a pastor in the PCUSA, and I've been working with REACH since 2007 as we organized as a nonprofit.
Okay. Patty, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Patty Holt. I have been with REACH since we began, when we incorporated, 10 years ago, I guess. Anyway, for a long time. Volunteer. I am the program manager actually now at REACH, which means I'm the buck stops here for the Center of Hope questions. So, and I'm at the Center of Hope every day and know our clients well. So I'll be the person that can answer a lot of your questions. Happy to do so. How about can I flip it over to Jill?
Absolutely. That was who I was going to pick next, but you did it for me.
Thank you so much, Carla and Patty. My name is Jia Kang. I'm the new Community and Volunteer Engagement Manager for REACH. I've been a community organizer for the last 3 years, and I will be working closely with a lot of our community members here. So I'm really excited about that.
Great, fantastic. And then I'd like everyone else to, the non-steering committee members, to introduce yourself in the chat. That would be helpful for us so that we know who's raising their hands or talking or trying to talk. That would be great. If you do just your name and maybe a little bit about whether you're a neighbor or other type of community member, that would be great.
I'm Aliana Ustanik, and I live right next door to the church. So I'm very interested in what's going on.
Thanks, Aliana. I see we have Jerry Kennedy, who lives about a block from the church as well. Erica Barnett, a reporter from the South Seattle Emerald and Publicola. Naja E. Brown, an executive director, Yield to the King Ministry, and a resident of Rainier View neighborhood. Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to Deputy Mitchell for joining us as well.
Yeah, hi. I'll just take a moment with that segue to introduce myself. My name is Deputy Jimmy Mitchell. I'm with the Sheriff's Office, obviously. I am the Community Crime Prevention Deputy for West Hill. I've been up here for 5 years. I've worked closely with the West Hill Community Association over that time. I've worked with Pastor Scott in the Lutheran Church over that time. I've been in law enforcement for 16 years. Prior to that, I've worked in downtown and Metro. I've worked with homeless and homeless issues the majority of my career, and I'm here to answer anyone's questions about public safety as it relates to any individual. So thank you.
Thank you. And a special shout out to Devin, board member of West Hill Community Association. And as you can see in the chat box, she is live tweeting, and she helped us to set up this stream that's going on the West Hill Community Association Facebook page. So thank you, Devin. And Pastor Scott, you want to take it away? If any folks continue to post in the chat box, that is fine. Just to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I said, thank you, Finn. I see we're ahead of schedule, and so I'm going to set my watch to make sure I behave, because if I'm given extra time, I'll use it. I won't. I'll stick to my 5 minutes as closely as I can, starting now. All right. Again, welcome to all who are here. My name is Scott Kramer. I am pastor at Lake Ridge Lutheran and have been at the church as pastor for the past almost 18 years, since 2003. My wife and I live just down the hill from the church and continue to love being in the hood. Back in 2005, our congregation was asked if we wanted to be part of a new ministry starting up in South County. It's called Arise. It's a men's shelter that would be shared on a rotational basis among congregations in the South End, not just Lutheran, but all different denominations. And we said yes. We came together as a congregation and agreed that we wanted to be part of that at ground level. So that is something we've been doing since then. We said yes in 2005, and I think it was 2006 when it finally got off the ground. And so that meant that every year since then, in the month of March, I think one year it was May, for the full month, we had a men's shelter in the basement of the church. And so this year will be the first time, I mean, I get a little bit choked up thinking about it, that we won't be doing that this year just because of the pandemic. We were able to do it just as the pandemic hit last year, but not this year. If you walk or drive by the church parking lot, you'll see a white trailer there. That's for Arise. That's just their storage while the men are dispersed to other places, hotels and so on, during this pandemic time. So that was the start of a lot of homeless ministry for us as a congregation. Center of Hope actually popped up early. We had no idea. We hosted, I think, just for a month in an emergency situation where when Center of Hope was also in rotation, we agreed to take it at the last minute for a month, having no idea that this conversation would take place. Many, if not all of you, are aware that we were approached by Tent City 3. This was the biggest surprise of all. I had no idea that we would even qualify. I knew there was a need out there, and I thought, we don't have room for that. But we were approached by another congregation, and it was an emergency situation. So it would have been a matter either of us saying yes or the people are out in the street. So we said yes, and they were with us for, I think, about 3 months. This has been about 3 years ago now. So just a shout out to Officer Mitchell. Again, your willingness to walk with us through that, as well as many neighbors, the support. You remember the snowstorm that winter. It was just unbelievable, a terrible time to be without shelter, even more than usual. And most recently of all, we, and everybody I think on this call knows about the Green Tree apartment fire. And we were again asked if we would help. And it crushed me, but we just had to say no because of this conversation. We are not a large congregation and we need to be able to focus. And so, although it would have been great to say, yeah, we can temporarily house these folks or store their stuff, we just simply can't because that would just be overwhelming. And yet it was an honor to be asked because we have been known for shelter ministries and supported by many in the congregation and beyond. So that's under 4 minutes. I think I'll leave it there if that's okay, unless one of the steering team wants to point out something else.
That's great, Pastor Scott. Thank you so much. So with that kind of context from Lakeridge, we wanted to give you a little bit of overview about who Reach is and why this partnership is just part of who we are. Reach to this year, well, 2020 celebrated its 50th anniversary. It began as a community-based organization in 1970, just a group of local churches in the Renton area, so not just Renton City, but in the surrounding area. Lots of unincorporated King County churches came together to decide it was part of the church's role, or to make real this foundational claim that it's the church's role to make a difference in the community, to actually serve those that don't have the materials that they need to be well. And over the years did just a ton of good work. Started Arise, started the Friendly Kitchen, does a crop walk every year. A group of volunteers who knew just from intuition and their own common sense that programs don't make sense unless they're grounded in the community. They're not sustainable, they don't work, they're not responsive as they need to be unless they're in deep communication with what the community knows about what they need. That's just been the lifeblood of Reach. In 2009, after the crash of 2008, a couple of local pastors voiced that families were showing up at their door, camping out in their parking lots, desperate for help. Brought that to the Reach meeting, put 2 and 2 together, talked to some experts, realized that the crash of 2008 had displaced families and also had highlighted for us the fact that homelessness was not just kind of our idea of what, the idea that we have in mind of a single white man camping out on the street, that there were families who were really struggling. Renton School District has something like 600 families who are doubled up. So they're not sleeping in hotels, but they're living in very precarious positions and and not sleeping in the street, but living in hotels and with family. So at that point, we started to organize around the idea of a day shelter, an overnight emergency shelter. We were very clear from our experience with Arise that unless we put in place day services, we were not helping people. In fact, we were kind of setting them up for failure. We were giving them shelter overnight, but then saying we expect you to just move on. And if you don't move on, then you're somehow to blame. We're giving you help. So we were very, very clear that if we were going to help families, we had to also provide day resources. So we partnered with the City of Renton, opened a day centre in the basement of City Hall, and overnight shelter in churches. That's been running now for 7 years, and we house about 50 families a year. The idea of, and Patty will tell you more about the actual programs. When COVID hit, we had to make sure that our families and our community was safe. We had a shelter that was in 2 different locations with a gap in services in the middle of the day and a gap in services on the weekend. We needed 24/7 accommodation. We had been wanting that for a long time, and now it was critical. We moved into temporary accommodation with St. Matthew's Lutheran Church and now at the Renton Community Neighbourhood Centre. And we approached Lakeridge. We had started a conversation with Lakeridge in November 2019 about this possible partnership. It was our intention at that point to take a slow community-based approach. COVID hit, we went back to them and said, could we accelerate this process? We really need to get inside. They said yes. And just immediately jumped in. We've been partners with Lakeridge since the very beginning, and we're embedded in the community. We work with Lakeridge Elementary School. Now we're getting to know you all in a much deeper way. And so we started this process. So that's why we're working with Lakeridge, and we're now at the point where we're really starting to kind of develop this project. So that's the background. I'd like to ask Patty to just cover a little bit of what actually happens in this program, what people can expect at Lakeridge.
Happy to do so. So all of our clients come to us via referral through 211 coordinated entry, and they are families who are very actively wanting housing. That's part of the criteria. They want housing. So they come to us by referral. We do an intake. We do a criminal background check right away. We are all about safety. We are definitely a family shelter. Now, families mean different things. Sometimes it's a single dad. We have a single dad with identical boys in second grade. We've had grandparents raising their kids, intact families, mom, dad, 3 or 4 kids. It's definitely a family shelter right off the get-go. And then when families start with us, it's a very intensive intake procedure. So we find out exactly what their needs are, what led them to be homeless, how can we help them? Our whole goal is that they stay with us as short a time as possible. Our average stay is 77 days, but we don't have an arbitrary cutoff. As long as they are, this will sound like an AA thing, as long as they're working the program, but as long as they are working with our case managers and, actively looking, and we help them do that, they're really happy to stay with us. It took us, our longest time frame as a family took over a year. It was a family of 10. It took a while to find housing for them. But again, our average stay is about 77 days. We provide wraparound services at the shelter. Again, everything's a little bit different now with COVID, but we've had people come in to help teach budgeting classes. Our goal is to help them not have to come back into homelessness. So we have all sorts of skills, people that come in and teach ESL, help with resumes. Most of our families, at least one of the parents work. They are very, it's just been like one bad thing that's happened, in terms of a hospital stay or whatnot. You would be surprised, people that are homeless that you don't know they're homeless. It's not the scary person, the stereotypical thing that we think of. These are people that that are probably even maybe some from your neighborhood that are in our shelter. We are very careful about protocols, particularly now with COVID. We take the safety of our clients and our volunteers, our staff very seriously. We mask up, we disinfect, we just take care of things. Our clients are incredibly important to us. We value their life story. We want to honor them, help build on their strengths, and just work with them, because they're happy to be with us, but they don't want to stay with us, and that's the way it should be. It's not a place where people are going to camp out and live in the shelter for years on end. They don't. That's the goal, is to get out. And I know some questions have already come up in terms of what does it look like. Well, we always have people on staff. We are a 24/7 shelter, fully staffed at all times. So never be a time when there's not at least one staff member on duty. You don't need to, that's not a concern. We offer services to our clients. About half of our clients have a car, so they would have well-running cars in the parking lot. Some of our clients, are on the bus, and that's one of the things that we checked out. Is there a bus line nearby? Indeed, there is. So our clients can, take the bus to work or wherever they need to go. But I just want to assure you that we are very community minded and involve the community in terms of having volunteers come in and whatnot. You will be glad that we're there. We just we will add value to your neighborhood, and just that sense of helping people. That's what we're all about. And it might be good, Finn. We actually, when Maggie mentioned when we first left City Hall, we were temporarily in St. Matthews. The pastor there, Pastor Casey Hahn, did a lovely little clip, a little video about what it was like to have us at her spot. So I think that would make sense to show that now. Unless, Maggie, is there anything you want me to talk about that I didn't? I kind of go fast.
No, I think that's all of it. I think the only thing to stress is that we're staffed 24/7.
Oh, absolutely.
There's never a time when
Never a
someone
time.
who is trained
Right.
in trauma-informed care is on site. Never.
We're always-
And yeah.
Okay, you want to show that little video? That'd be great, Finn. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Casey Hahn, and I am the pastor of St. Matthew's Lutheran Church, and I wanted to offer my full and enthusiastic support for Hope on the Hill, this new partnership between Center of Hope and Lake Ridge Lutheran. St. Matthews, back in April, was privileged enough to host the Center of Hope right at the beginning weeks of the pandemic. They stayed in our building using our kitchen, our fellowship hall, and many other rooms the month of April, May, and June. We were so thankful that the families could stay safe, they could receive food and provisions, but also that they could move into providing 24-hour care for these families. This model has proven to be so successful that I am thrilled that the Center of Hope is moving forward with ensuring that families experiencing homelessness in Renton are going to have adequate space as well as care and services moving forward. So if you have any questions about Center of Hope, what it would mean for them to be in your neighborhood, I would love to have a conversation as a community member who has hosted the staff and the families, and we are so thrilled and offer, on behalf of the community that I am called to serve, we are thrilled to offer our support. Have a great day, and thank you so much. We're excited for the next steps.
Okay, so just in case you missed, that was Pastor Casey Hahn from St. Matthews in Renton, and they hosted Center of Hope Family Shelter just at the beginning of the pandemic, when the Center of Hope really needed more space and a 24/7 place to be able to adequately serve their clients and families in a way that was COVID safe. We just wanted to share with you all that this partnership is taking a lot of input from different stakeholders. So our steering committee has been meeting with the King County Department of Local Services. They are the folks in charge of doing our permitting. And so we are in frequent communication with them. And we have also been meeting with Councilmember Zahalai's staff and team to have their support on board with this. You know, because we are unincorporated King County, those are our governing bodies, and we are working with them to make this process run smoothly. Our goal is to have the Center of Hope move into Lake Ridge Lutheran at the end of March. And we are hopeful that that timeline will work. And so the next piece that we just wanted to go over were some frequently asked questions from when you all registered. And so Maggie and I will kind of tag team those. And then right after this, after we go through about 4 questions, we'll open it up for you all to ask questions. So please be ready with those. We'd love to be in conversation and make sure that you all are as informed as possible. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. So the first question, Maggie, will you partner with other nonprofit organizations in the area?
Yes, it's just in our DNA. We reject any model that does not partner with local knowledge. It's not equitable, it's not sustainable, and that's just not what we're interested in. So we have reached out to, we already have some key partners in Lake Ridge that we've worked with for a long time, local schools, especially social workers that are placed in schools, principals. We have developed a relationship thanks to Finn and the way that Lake Ridge is so deeply embedded in the local community, to the West Hill Community Association. We're attending their meetings. We're developing a relationship with Skyway Coalition and just making sure that we are listening deeply to what the community know. We will continue. This is not, we're not using those relationships in order to get in here. We understand that we can't function well without the knowledge that you hold and that local community partners hold. And so a lot of those relationships will transition into services for local clients, because what happens when you develop those relationships is then folks who need services in West Hill have another resource that they can reach out to. They know the people, they can call us when they have a family that needs help. One of the features that Reach, this is a long answer, but it's a really good question. One of the things that we're interested in is keeping people in their house. We don't want to be a shelter. Shelter is not a good way to live. It's hard and it's traumatic. It impacts learning goals for clients. It's just, for their kids, it's just not a good way to live. So if we could go out of business, we would. And the way that we want to impact that is to move our services more towards diversion and prevention. We'll probably always need to have a safety net, but last year we developed $55,000 in diversion funds that we helped individuals levy to pay bills that would have otherwise made them homeless. And we kept 27 families in their homes, children who could then maintain their schools. We hope to bring those resources to Skyway. So if we know local partners who can reach out to us and say, I have a family, they have a bill, they're really struggling, do you have any help? We're going to double down and try and do that. So long answer, our services don't work unless we're in a relationship with the local community. Thanks, Finn. Sorry, I'll let you do the next one. You'll be shorter. Well, this is a technical question, actually, so it might be mine. And it's one that came up from Veda, who she put it in the chat to me. I think, is this a low barrier, medium barrier, or a high barrier? It is probably classified medium barrier. It's not low barrier. So there is a very good emergency response that is that has been levied recently in recent years that's needed, called low barrier. And for those that don't know, that allows people to come in and stay when they're actively dealing with addiction or very severe mental health issues. Those types of responses are needed because it's often the case that people that have addictions and mental health can't get in, can't find the help they need. They need to get into a place first and then seek help. That's important. That's not what we are. This shelter is for folks who are not using drugs and alcohol. They may be in recovery. There are people I bet there's people in this room that are in recovery. It happens, it's part of our life together. So there may be people who are in recovery, and we honor that and support it, but there's no drug use in our shelter, there's no alcohol use in our shelter. If someone shows up and it's clear that they are high or drunk, they're not coming in. We will work. Patty was down at the shelter last night, not because there was a problem, but because she's on call. As soon as someone needs some extra support, she's over there to help them get that support. What we will do, a case in point, is Patty's not just going to release people into the neighborhood. She's going to find a place for them to go. Last night, it was with a brother who could take someone who really needed some extra support, got them transport and got them to that place. So we are not a low barrier shelter. We're probably medium barrier in that we'll work with people who need a little bit extra support. I think that answers the question. You can follow up with more on that if you need later. Okay, Finn, why this neighborhood? Why now? And what will the impact on property values be? You want to take that?
Yeah, so sure. As Pastor Scott kind of explained, homeless ministry is really in this church's DNA. Lakeridge Lutheran has been hosting the Arise Men's Shelter since 2005. We've been a host for Tent City 3 during the winter of 2019. And this came up as a conversation about a year ago for how can we move forward as a congregation? You know, what's kind of our next step? What would we like our legacy to be? We're a small congregation. We have a very large property. We have a beautiful building. And how can we make it be as functional as possible and as well used as possible? We have a lot of other partners already. We have a preschool that uses our education building, the top floor. We have one other congregation that uses our building on Saturdays. We have Arise, the men's shelter. We have an AA group who's not currently using our building during COVID, but in the past holds 2 meetings per week in our building. And all of those partnerships will continue. But what we envision is that Reach's Center of Hope, we are inviting them to use our downstairs space. And so that footprint is, we are really excited to offer it to this work. We think it's really important and it fits really well with what we are already committed to. So that's why this neighborhood. We are this church, we are in this neighborhood, and we have this space. Why now? This is both a COVID response in terms of the accelerated process, but we were already in conversation with Reach at the beginning of 2020 let's see, what the beginning of 2020, so late 2019, we started to discuss with them just very generally, thinking that we could make this a very drawn out process, think about exactly how we wanted to do that. And while we're very committed to making sure this is thoughtful, we have accelerated the process, knowing that their goal is to have a 24/7 space that has, you know, dignified space for their clients, and that they don't need to move every couple of months, because right now they're in temporary locations that can house them. So that's a bit about
Yeah.
that. Maggie, do you think we need to add on?
I wanted to add on in terms of kind of property values. I mean, what we intend to do is help maintain a beautiful space at Lakeridge with professional staff on site all the time. So what we found in cases like this is that the security of that building actually it goes up. That's what we found when Arise has been in a church building, is that they experience less crime. There's no vandalism, there's no mail dumps, because people know there's life in that building, and we expect it to be a life that is meaningful and that keeps that space. Just the grounds will be upkept because we're there all the time. So we will engage in helping to keep the space beautiful looking and also functioning well. I do know, I want to name it, that we want to make sure that people feel safe, right? I mean, we can't control what happens in the whole neighborhood, but we want to answer or engage in conversation around where, well, I feel less safe, or I'm not sure about how this impacts my safety. And we're going to partner deeply with I don't know your rank, Jimmy Mitchell. I'm sorry, I want to get your rank in the police force right, but Mr. Mitchell, it's deputy. Thank you, Deputy Mitchell. Like we have in Renton, over making sure that we are engaging in helping to contribute to a safe environment. So I want to draw you in here, Jimmy, if I may, and just could you speak to this a little bit?
Sure. And I just want to reiterate that I agree with everything that Maggie just said, based on my own personal past experience. And Pastor Scott kind of alluded to that when he talked earlier, that he and I kind of worked through this process when they did the emergency shelter with Share Wheel 3 years ago, and we've done twice in West Hill Community Associate, or in the West Hill area. Over my 5 years, we've had 4 different shelters. 2, I think this would be the second at the Lutheran Church. We had one at the other church, the Methodist Church, and then we had one down by the 7-Eleven on there. And Maggie's correct. I cannot, using my statistical analysis, one of the things I do is I look at all the data in the crime statistics for property crimes, crimes against people, and whatnot on a daily basis. And we do see a deflation of statistics in the area where we've had these shelters, these emergency shelters in place. Again, it goes back to what Patty Holt was talking about. This is a family shelter. They're vetted. They have a criminal background done. We have that 24/7. So you're really welcoming in good people who are trying to better their lives. And that's from a crime prevention perspective and a safety perspective, that's more eyes in the favor of public safety. I'll give you an example. So in 2017, when we had that, I think it was 2017, when we had the first emergency here, where I worked with Pastor Scott in the past, Lakeridge and Bryn Mawr neighborhoods were experiencing a rash of mail thefts. Now, mail theft is a crime of opportunity, i.e. no one's looking, it's easy, I'm gonna drive up, take your mail and drive off. I cannot attribute the shelter as suppressing it, but there is a correlation. When the shelter moved into the Lutheran Church there in the Lakeridge area, there was a reduction. Now, there were other efforts. In fact, we were doing higher emphasis, and we were posting crime prevention banners, and I was working with some of the local Crime Watch captains in the neighborhoods. But there was a suppression. I have seen that correlation. Everything that Maggie said is correct. If anything, I've never seen a reduction in property value. Anyone that's lived in here for more than 3 years has seen their property values continue to rise in the West Hill area. Any questions for me, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deputy Mitchell. Really appreciate your input. And the police service offer, they've become like social workers. Mostly out of like, I think that it always has been a part of your role, right? In terms of kind of the role, but especially given the lack of services. And so we work deeply with the Renton PD to problem solve often, you know, if we need some extra resources or some extra support. So we're really looking forward to developing that relationship with you all.
Yeah, exactly. And the Sheriff's Office, we are totally on board with building that relationship with you, as we've talked over the last few days. And just for the residents in the area, you know, I and my fellow deputies and the Sheriff's Office as a whole, you know, we will engage these communities. We go in and check that they're very well efficiently run. Like I said, there's always somebody from the organization on staff there. I have not personally worked with Project Reach here in the past, but everything that I've seen is spot on with what we've done in the past. If there is a problem, you can reach out and contact the Sheriff's Office on your end, anyone here. Like I said, our goal here is the safety of the people in the shelter, people in the neighborhood, the permanent residents, and all the workers there. We're here to ensure everyone's safety. If you have a problem, we will help problem solve it together as a community and make this place, continue to make Westfield a great place to live that it is.
Thanks so much. Yeah, Finn?
That's great. So we'd like to hold the rest of the time for questions that you may have. And so we welcome your input and wonderings. You can either put that into the chat box or use that raise hand button, or if it seems like no one else is speaking, you could go ahead and unmute. We're not too large of a crowd.
And before we wrap up, we'll also share some information on how to get involved, what our community engagement looks like. So we've got questions about that. We'll make sure that information gets to you before we wrap up. So
yeah, we'll try to say we'll stop questions at about 1:55 and save 5 minutes for that.
So what do you have that you'd like to get clarified or ask? Oh, I had a question from someone, Aliana, I'm saying that, hopefully I think right, Aliana, about, yeah, hi there, about our resources for our students and do we have access to internet? Yes, absolutely. And what I shared was that we are in the process of hiring a new tutor. We've been funded for a tutor that's bilingual so that we have extra support for our kids and that they are engaging in their learning while they're going through this experience.
And I will tell you, I am a retired teacher, 40 years retired. And so I would often accompany families if they were moving into a new school, sitting on IEP conferences. Education is a critical piece of success. And I will tell you that all of our kids are actively engaged in online learning. That's a huge piece. Yeah, that's critical.
Thanks, Patty. I heard from Jerry. Hi, Jerry. That you have some questions. You said you've got 3. Give us a couple, and we'll make sure that we get everybody in. And if not, we'll just keep going. So if you'd like to unmute. Oh, you've written them down. Bless you. Thank you. What is the maximum capacity? Is this intended to be permanent? Will you provide phone number for 24/7 staff? Thank you for those. Those are great questions. Maximum capacity, Patty? Maximum capacity?
Certainly. Our maximum capacity is 55. That's in non-COVID time. While it's COVID, it will certainly be less than that because we have to follow safety protocols in terms of distancing. Currently, right now, we have 30 people in our shelter. It depends on the size of the families. It's 9 families. We have kind of set into family areas. So it could go up as high as probably 35 in terms of still being safe, but our maximum capacity is 55.
Great. Is this intended to be permanent? It's a great question. No, this is our kind of long-term relationship right now, right? We want to be in long-term relationship with Lakeridge around providing local services to the West Hill. We understand that King County South King County experiences great discrimination in terms of the availability of services and that the local community has been left out when it comes to developing those services. Reach really wants to center that. So we want to be in deep partnership with our partners at Lakeridge over the long term. We're going to sign a lease with them that's going to be 3 to 5 years. We're talking about 5 years at the moment in this space, but we will be in continued partnership about whether it's in this space or we develop other options. So if that's the answer to your question, Jerry, is that you could understand this as a long-term solution for Reach, but also we have plans, right? I mean, having right now, what it will look like in downstairs, and we'll get you in for tours, is that our clients will have separate sleeping arrangements that are kind of divided by almost like cubicle type solutions, because we want to really prioritize the dignity of our clients. Mats on the floor with all of your people you're living with is just awful. So we want to provide some privacy, but we also know that people deserve more than that, right? So what would it look like to keep developing with Lakeridge to get a really good solution either on this site or somewhere else? Does that answer that question? I'm not trying to kind of evade it, but it's just, yeah, thank you. And then the last one, will there be a phone number for 20? Yes, phone number will be posted. I'll share that before we leave today about how you'll be able to contact people, both before we move in and after. Yeah. Okay.
And we have a question from Nada Brown.
Mm-hmm.
In what type of housing do you place the shelter residents?
Yeah, Patty?
It totally depends on what their needs are. A lot of times we have clients that will get Section 8 help or they get rapid rehousing. There are as many different types of housing as there are people. And it just depends, this will sound funny, but like what pot of money we can help tap into. But the idea is most of our families will move into apartments, transitional housing, with the idea that for a while, sometimes they'll get help and then they're totally independent. But again, it's very tailored to that particular family's needs and how we can help them. We are just masters at our housing navigation team is stellar about matching up, like, okay, this family is, you know, there's a veteran family. Well, there's different pots of availability for someone who's a veteran, or they've got this issue. So we really work hard with the families to match their needs with what's available.
Thanks, Patty. I got a question from JP Mad. I'm sorry, I don't know your first name, but I just want to read what you've written, and then we can kind of dig into it. Additional communication to include all, capitalized, so that's really stressed as important, of the neighborhood, expectations of the neighborhood community, and details of contractual agreements. I want to have you on mute in a minute and explain that last one because I want to make sure I get that right. But if I could go to the first two, and I'm going to go to Jill here in a second. We heard pretty clearly from a local neighbor, Paula. I think Paula's on here. I think she came in the call, but I don't see her. Oh, that's you, Paula. Oh, awesome, cool. That people were feeling that we had gotten ahead of communication to the whole neighborhood, and we take that really seriously. I think part of that was a function of COVID, honestly, without making excuses for ourselves, right? We're really open to, hey, we didn't do this right. Okay, but part of it, I think, was to do with COVID. We had a couple of community meetings in August. They were not well attended. We put the notices out on Nextdoor and on, I think, Facebook. Yeah, Finn? Yeah.
And the West Hill calendar.
And the West Hill calendar. We normally in non-COVID times would be out talking to people and having a community meeting. So those were not well attended. So we're going to have more, right? So we're in process. This we want to keep building these relationships. So Paula has volunteered to be in conversation with us, and we're looking for others to help us get the word out. We'll have this meeting today, a meeting on Monday, and then we will have some more, right? This is not a one and done. And in fact, we had already planned, and with Paula's encouragement, we're going to do this now rather than wait until later to put a community advisory board in place. So Jill, Jill is going to be our staff member that will staff that in partnership with Lakeridge. So I want to invite you in and just talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, so as Maggie said, I will be the one heading the neighborhood advisory group. I envision that to be an opportunity where now our neighbors will be able to, give inputs, advices, and feedbacks on the work that we do. It will be a way that we'll be able to work with our neighbors and see we can best serve our neighborhoods, as well as do Reach's work as well.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Jill. And so your second question there, Paula, expectations of the neighbourhood community is to engage with us. That's our main. We want to be in relationship with you all. We have lots of ways for people to plug in. People can show up and volunteer, can give of their time and talents. But we really just want to hear from you, keep us accountable, listen deeply to kind of what we're experiencing and what we know from what we've done, but help us to really work with you about what this looks like to be excellent neighbors, right? And where I've seen this work really well before, the shelters just become part of the neighborhood and we know each other really well. And in some, and most of my experience with those kind of community advisory boards has been around tent cities. And I've seen a couple of places where those advisory boards become just really integrated into the life of the and provide this really good bridge between the shelter and the community if they're done well, if everybody shows up in good faith and really looks to engage and have real conversation around what's going on. So that's the model that we're hankering after. So that's the expectations. And to let us know, we can't fix things if you don't tell us what's not working for you. And so we need the neighborhood to talk to us and to help us to keep anxiety levels under control so that we're working really productively together. So we're looking for your partnership. Can you tell I'm a pastor? I could talk way too long, I'm sorry. Details of contractual agreements. Paula, can I have you unmute and just explain that question a little bit? Oh, you're still muted, my dear. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering, with all the stakeholders, what are their contractual responsibilities, both monetary, physical, whatever it is, too, so we have an idea of how not just Reach is supporting, but all of the other agencies that are involved with you.
In terms of how the agencies are contracted with us?
With this specific.
Yeah. Oh, with this specific, yes, we can provide that. And we can talk about that at the advisory board, actually, let you know how we're funded, what our measures are. I'm going to let Paddy talk to that as well. A lot of our relationships are not contractual, right? They just exist. Paddy, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, certainly we have contracts with various cities, and that's, maybe what you're thinking about. But we have lots of work with nonprofits and other agencies that support us, like Bright Horizons Childcare gives us things all the time. They provide a new playroom for us. We work with the King County Library, and we have just lots of different organizations that work with us. In terms of contractually, I'm thinking, and Maggie, you may want to jump in. You may be asking about the financial piece, and we do have contracts with various city and government organizations. I'm not, is that kind of what you asked?
Happy to share those. Very happy to share those. They're not secret. They're kind of dull in their detail, but they're important documents, and we're contracted currently with King County, with the City of Renton, Tukwila, and so the King County contract, who are in this last year were our biggest funders, and the Tukwila contract, and we're also other South King County, Auburn has a little bit, but those South King County, let me get to that, are the ones that really are looking for measures from this area. So the King County contract especially, one of the reasons that they want to be in deep partnership with us is they have heard the neighborhoods of Skyway, West Hill, and others, I've heard this from them, say that we need to really engage what those neighborhoods are telling us. You haven't listened to us. You haven't provided services. You haven't provided services that are responsive to what the local community knows. And my hope is that they see Reach as a partner who prioritizes that way of being. And so that's the contract that really guides some of this work. And then the South King County cities like Tukwila. We also get money from CTAC, next year and from Auburn. And that's based on who we have served. We can share with you the breakdown of where our clients come from. 70% of those clients are from South King County. Those are our people. That's who we serve. And that's largely to do with the way that we set up our work and with the partnerships that we've built. So really happy to share those. I'm not going to do it here, but I think the Community Advisory Board would be the place to really kind of look at those contracts. And frankly, you can tell us, this one doesn't work if you're going to be true to who you are, one of the things that, so we can talk about that.
I think that's a great segue.
Could I just add one more thing? I just would like to reiterate that not everyone is on a lot of those websites. Some people choose not to do it for various reasons, and other people just don't do it. So I would like to, I know this will be possibly part of the advisory board's role, but find other ways other than the computer to advertise.
And you and I and Carla are gonna do the old-fashioned putting flyers on lampposts. We've already decided that for the next one. So Paula, we're gonna pull you into that, and so we heard you when you told us that, definitely.
And we have a question: how can folks learn more about joining the advisory board? And Carla, I can let you speak to this. Just that, well, do you want me to, Carla?
It's okay. I think going through Jill might be the best way. I mean, they can talk to us, but I think if Jill's going to be heading the advisory board, then I think contacting her is that.
And folks will receive an email for everyone who attended the meeting or signed up. So just stay tuned after the Monday meeting so that we can wait to see kind of everyone who's attended, and we'll send out an email about how you can participate in the neighborhood advisory group. And we also hope to create a feedback form and also an option to add other folks who might be interested to share their contact information, because really I think the way to do this is word of mouth, kind of word of internet mouth right now. But you all are how we'll best reach other people.
Any other questions that are bubbling up for folks before I've got some information to share about how we will be in contact with you all and how you can make sure that you're able to reach us. But is there anything else that's burning for people? Okay, great. We are so grateful for your engagement today. This next slide that I'm going to show you has contact information. I'll talk you through it. Take a note of this. We'll follow up by email. Reach out. We want this to be a community effort. So thank you for letting us be a part of your life on Lake Ridge. You guys are you blow it out of the water in terms of the way that you engage the voices of the people that live here. So we're really happy to be in partnership with you all. So can I share this last slide? Does that make sense?
Let's have Pastor Scott do the closing prayer first, and then we can just share it and folks can leave once they have jotted that down.
Sounds great. I plan to hang out in this space for like 15 minutes. I want to get out in the sun, but if anybody has a question that they want to go into in a little bit more detail, then you're welcome to hang out. Okay, Pastor Scott.
All right, Maggie, thank you. And again, shout out to everybody on this call. Thank you for making time. And there will continue to be other opportunities, including this coming Monday. Our congregation, when we were meeting in person, which has been, seems like forever now, always closed our worship with a single prayer. And I'm so glad we did, because it primed us for the time in which we live now. This pandemic time, political turmoil, all that's been going on. It's been a really hard year. And so I hope you hear this as a word of hope. This sending prayer that we use in worship is what I'm going to use. Simply read it. I don't expect you to read along, but just so you can see it and hear it from more than just my lips. So let us pray. O God, you have called your servants to ventures of which we cannot see the ending. by paths as yet untrodden, through perils unknown. Give us faith to go out with good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand is leading us and your love supporting us through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Scott. Let me share this final slide. I'm hoping you can see this. So pre-move, before we move in, you can contact myself or Finn. We are the co-chairs of the steering committee. You'll see my email there, Maggie@ReachRenton, Finn, fhardy2012@gmail.com. If we need to refer you on to someone else, we'll be happy to do that. Or you can reach out to Jill Kong, our community engagement manager, especially if you have interest in being on the community advisory board, jill@reachrenton.com. After we move on, like we said, we will have staff on site 24/7. A number will be prominently posted outside the building. We will probably have the doors closed for security, so folks aren't just kind of walking in. There'll be a doorbell. You can talk to someone, or you can call. And that will be posted. Patty Holt will be your main contact there if you need something, to know something about the program, patty@reachrenton.com. I've put some other contacts in there because people need to have recourse, right? If you don't get the answer that you're looking for, you have further questions, you're not satisfied. I've put Pastor Scott down there as the pastoral lead at Lakeridge. So if it's to do with Lakeridge or you just want to check in with him, Pastor Scott at Comcast.net. Our executive director is Bianca@reachrenton.org. I would also encourage you to reach out to stakeholders, people that we are accountable to, and let them know what you're thinking. So West Hill Community Association is our main partner, Skyway Coalition, and other churches in the area. If you're a member of a church and you have something that we need to hear, go through your local pastor and tell them to talk to us. Okay, that is it. I'm going to leave that up for a few minutes. As I say, we'll hang out here until 2:15, but go with peace and thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
If you're hanging out, want to take your mics off. Nadja, can I ask you about your church, Yield to the King? Where are you based? Is it a church or a ministry or?
It is a nonprofit organization. I am the founder. We were established in 2015, the year that I retired. And so we're in this kind of tucked away between Tukwila. We're in Seattle, city of Seattle. The zip code is 98178. Tukwila, Renton, just that general vicinity. Skyway. So we focus on food insecurities, homelessness, and people who are being displaced. So we have the rental assistance, move-in deposit assistance, application fee assistance. We're an emergency feeding program site. And we also do work with the Department of Social and Health Services and the Developmental Disabilities Administration.
Awesome.
So small organization, not big. We're not looking to solve world hunger, right?
Right.
And we work with volunteers, and currently, for the past 5 years, I've been working out of the basement of my home. So the basement of my home has been converted to Yield to the King Ministry offices. 15-passenger van. We're local. We partner. We do a lot of partnering.
Yeah.
So anyone that's been interested in partnering. And recently, we were partnering with Piscus, Peace on the Street by Kids from the Street, which was over in the Central District of Seattle. We went over there regularly and we cooked and served. Well, we cooked and then we transported the food and we served. So we've been looking for a shelter of sorts to partner with to pick back up the food insecurities program. And because of COVID, everything pretty much has been shut down. I'm not going to put my volunteers at risk or myself. So that's why I'm interested. Really very pleased with what I've heard today. And I just want to thank you all for the information that you've shared. I presented your flyer to my board. I had a board meeting in January, so they're waiting and they're laying in wait to hear what I'm going to
That sounds awesome. Well, we would love to get to know you guys. Do you have a kitchen at where you're at?
I have access to a kitchen.
Okay,
All
okay.
food handler permitted,
Okay.
you know, the whole bit. Yes.
Okay, we all have a kitchen at Lake Ridge too. So, yeah, we'd love to just kind of get to know you, have you come over when we move in, and
Sure.
let's kind of think together if there are ways for us to be helping each other. Thanks for your work. It sounds really cool.
Thank you.
You guys are well connected, yeah.
Our website is yieldtothekingministry.org.
Okay, I will look you up, and I'm going to email you, Naja, separately and connect you with our ED, Bianca, and make sure you have Patty's information. And yeah, cool. Thank you for coming today. That's awesome. Yeah. Did anybody else have anything? Paula, Jerry? Well, there's some others down that they wanted to check in about particularly, or oh, I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, sorry. There you all are. Okay. Anything you heard that you were wondering about?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're going to start putting maybe some flyers in the neighborhood around on the doors. I was kind of disturbed at some of the comments that came up on Nextdoor about the coming shelter. And I hope that people will kind of open their minds and try to go with the flow, so to speak.
Yeah, I know. Those online forums, like, because we're not talking to each other, we're not looking each other in the eye, they just are not the most helpful, I think.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. I mean, the only reason that we became aware of it is because I'm on Nextdoor as a neighbor. That's not one of our official platforms. It's not a media that, you know, we choose to engage on. We do know that a lot of neighbors are part of it. And so that's what's a little tricky. We know that it's a way to access a lot